going back to you, you said you had some beef. You got some beef with Andrew. Why don't you get into that? What are your quarrels and grievances and disagreements? Go ahead.
Well, I think Andrew Wilson is a very smart man, and I enjoy listening to his debates. One bone to pick with him is his treatment of women who are born again. In my experience, it sort of seems like you are extra harsh on them, and what I would think is that if you wanted the world to be less degenerate, that you would sort of welcome people wanting to change their ways. So I'm just curious what your motive is in being so harsh, and I'd love to hear about it.
Andrew, before you answer, can you just, for the panel and then for the viewers,
for your OCD, yes, right here. I'm framed up.
No, that's not. Can you just give a rundown? So your denomination of Christianity?
Yeah, I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian. I'm not a Protestant. I'm happy to get into this, though, right? Because I think that that's a seemingly fair criticism on its face. But as you've seen can we agree on a couple of things first, though? You've seen from tonight's panel, I basically only give out the same energy that I get. Is that a fair thing to say?
You'd have to elaborate on that more.
Meaning, unless you're being particularly hostile towards me, I'm not particularly hostile towards you.
I don't actually agree with that. I mean,
have I been particularly hostile with you?
Not with me, but I think that I've noticed you being particularly hostile to this woman, and I've noticed you being particularly hostile. How was
I hostile with her? I thought that we had a good back and forth engagement.
I think that once you make your point, you keep going.
Hang on. Let me finish. I treat her exactly how I would treat any man who was sitting where she was who had a contrary opinion to my own.
Sure.
Did I treat her differently than that?
No.
Okay, so then by your logic then, it's not just born again women who I would be brutal with in a debate, but also men, correct?
True.
Yeah, so I'm just going to treat both exactly the same.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go ahead with the rest of your criticism. Just want to make sure we get this squared out.
What I'm curious about is your intention when you come on and you, what is wrong with a woman deciding that what she was doing was wrong and she wants to change her ways? I haven't heard it on this panel tonight, but in a lot of the whatever podcasts, that's what I hear. There were a couple girls sitting here, and I don't know what's wrong with them deciding that they don't want to do what they're doing anymore. And I don't know what kind of resume you have to have for you to not mock them.
Nothing's wrong with that.
Then why are you still mocking them?
Okay, so I need you to try to separate two different things going on.
Okay.
So I believe that culture is downwind of theology and politics is downwind of culture. So I think that politics is informed by the culture and the culture is informed by theology. So imagine, to my chagrin, if you have women who will take Christianity and fuck it all up and twist it all up and mess it all up in order to appeal to other women and give them incorrect theology, and then preach that incorrect theology. And so we end up tangling in a theological debate where they say all sorts of crazy shit, like this, for instance. Yes, it's okay if you play with tarot cards and you're a Christian. Or, alternatively, yes, it's okay to be a magic user and a Christian. Or, alternatively, yes, there's no, you were a prostitute, but that's very similar to people smoking cigarettes. You can imagine my chagrin hearing that from these women, because it seems like they're trying to placate other women into bringing them into a false faith, which I think apostatizing is worse than anything else. So I think coming into false Christianity is almost as bad as the degeneracy itself.
Okay, that's a great answer. What I would say back to you is that the way that you argue, it doesn't seem like you have a lot of love. It doesn't seem like it's coming from love. There was one woman...
Not coming from love. It's coming from logic. I don't make
But
argumentations
Christ's
based on
law
my
is
emotions.
in love. I mean, is man for law or is law for man? There was one woman who was here,
It's not- it
and
has nothing
she
to do with
turned
law.
around. Will you let me finish, please? She turned around and said that she didn't want to do her old ways anymore. She had already come so far. She had a husband. She had a ministry, and you were on here like getting on her about.
Did you say she had
law.
a ministry?
Yeah, and that's
Did
what you were getting
hang
on
I just
her
want to
about.
be sure I'm clear.
That's
Did
what you
say
were
she
getting
had a
on her
minis-
about.
Hang on, stop. My turn now. Did you say she had a ministry?
Of women.
Yeah, are women allowed to have ministries?
That's what you say, but I don't agree with that.
Right, you don't agree with that. You're preaching a false doctrine. You want women to be clergy. You
I
want
think
women
that
to lead
you
women inside of a. Hang on, let me finish.
I'd
Inside
like
of a
to have a word.
patriarchal. Okay, you tell me when I'm allowed to respond to your points. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that when you preach out of this like intent to mock women, I mean your base is men. Like I feel like when you come on these things, I mean correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like your intent is to mock women for these comments. And I don't see how that is helping the world be better. I understand what you're saying, that you don't want women with a false doctrine, but at the same time, it just seems like it's not coming from love, that you are like, women want to turn away from porn or turn away from like what they've been doing, and you are like berating them, you're criticizing them, you're making it like you're embarrassing them and making it hard for other women who are maybe viewing this to turn their own ways. And to me, that's making degeneracy grow. Like you are enabling this hate women sort of mentality, in my opinion. That's how it comes off to a woman watching the show. It's like you are not able to turn away from what you want to turn from.
Can I add to that? And I don't want to like be judgmental.
No, you can't add to that because we're in the middle of having a conversation, and then you can add to it. So am I allowed to respond to these points now? Now, can you admit that I did not interrupt you at all while you were going through that? Great. So let's go through it one at a time. One, that's just tone policing. You never made a single argument. Why do I want people to come into a false faith? Why do I want that? That's bad. Not only that, but let us assume for a second that you don't know my end of it, how many people reach out to me after these shows who are women who say, thank you for challenging my worldview. I never thought of things like that at all. Or I know I got demolished, or how many hundreds of women send me DMs outside of this show who say it's due to your argumentation, your logical argumentation, that I came over to this. You're making arguments which are appealing to emotion. You're saying emotionally, when I hear what you say, it emotionally makes me feel bad. Well, that's great, but I need you to understand that I don't give a shit how it makes you feel. What I care about is what is logically true and consistent, and what I care about is the arguments. You might say, so, for instance, imagine this. You would agree with me that there's going to be a lot more Christians if we include homosexuals into Christianity, right?
I don't know. I wasn't brought up in church. I don't know.
Okay, but you would agree that if you had a church which barred homosexuals and then the church allowed homosexuals in, that you would have a lot more...
Andrew, avoid that topic if you can.
Okay.
Could I respond to what you said?
If it was people of the same sex... If you let more of them in, right, you would agree that you would have a much larger congregation, right? But you can't allow people to defeat what the purpose of the religion is because they choose not to wake up one day and go, I'm not going to be a prostitute anymore. And then I need you to respond to my last point, and this is the one that I really want you to focus on. There's a lot of women who utilize Christianity and the faith of Christianity to hide behind, and they become reformed not because they have found Christ at all, but because they use Christianity as a shield from criticism. And that, I believe, is where most of the tone policing from women comes from. That you're utilizing tone policing to say, no, you're not allowed to criticize me now because I've turned away from my degenerate ways. No, that's not the purpose of Christianity either, is that now suddenly you're above criticism. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I know about your stance on tone. I know about that, and that's not actually what offends me. What offends me is actually your use of the law against women, because I don't think that, like, that woman who was here, who had been born again, and she had gone such a long ways, and it doesn't matter the way you say it. Like, I know how your stance on tone, so it's fine by me. But you were saying that she was somehow not worthy of being who she was because she was teaching other women.
I don't think
Or
he said that.
correct
That's right.
me on
So
that.
let me
Then correct me.
respond to both
Okay.
of these points. Point one, she can't teach other women because women can't be clergy in Christianity. Two, she made it a point that niceness was a part of Christian doctrine, and it's not, and it never has been. And I pointed out that this is not a Christian virtue. She's teaching falsely. Women cannot be clergy in Christianity, period. They're not allowed to be clergy, period. Never. Not even once. They're not allowed to even once. You can't be like, we're just funning. We just made one for the fun of it. Even if the results of it, you could argue the results or the consequences of this might be better in some way, it doesn't matter. The purpose of the religion is not that the consequences are always good. That's not the purpose of the religion.
I understand. So I do know that that's backed up biblically, and I'd also like to say that in 1 Timothy it says, treat older women like your mothers and treat younger women like they're your sisters with purity. And I'm wondering, where do you follow the law on that?
Well, so let's dive into this. When we're talking about matrons, you're talking about Paul in this case, and I quote this quite a bit myself. And when you're talking about matrons and how matrons are supposed to teach, they're supposed to teach from a position of a pure heart to only women. They're not supposed to have a ministry. Ministry would imply both. It's okay for matrons to give
That
matronly
woman
wisdom.
said
hang
it
on,
was
hang on.
women.
Let me finish. I'm answering the question. It's okay for matrons to give matronly wisdom, but they're not allowed to teach the gospel. They're not allowed to do that. That's not their place. They're not allowed to be clergy.
Well,
If she
why
was
are
just
you
talking to her
allowed to
daughter-
not
hang on,
treat women
almost
with
done,
respect?
Almost done. Didn't cut you off. Almost done. If she was just talking to her daughter about the gospel, things like this, fine. Okay, but saying I'm a minister, I'm a part of clergy, and teach women as a part of a church clergy is wrong. Period. It's wrong across the board. It's
Okay,
wrong
I
theology.
disagree.
Do you know
I
what's also
disagree.
wrong? Smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, which you've been doing the whole time. You know, if we're going to talk
Why is
about
that wrong?
fall, because
Go
your
ahead, tell me
body
why it's
is a
wrong.
temple.
Because
Your
what is
body
that?
is a temple.
Oh yeah, where's that said in the Bible?
It
Did you
is
just make
said
it
in the
up?
Bible, and you're
Yeah, where?
ruining your
Where does it
temple.
say it?
And it does say you're not supposed to get drunk because
Am
you're
I
going to
drunk?
make. I'm not. I'm just saying you're drinking alcohol and you're smoking
And
cigarettes. You're
is
ruining
drinking
your
alcohol
temple.
a problem?
No, I'm just saying if you're going to talk about
So
Christianity,
drinking alcohol is not a problem. Okay, so then why'd you bring it up as being a problem from a Christian perspective?
getting drunk is any
And
kind of
am I
altercation.
drunk?
I don't know. Are you?
Well, let's see.
I'm
I don't
just
know.
saying,
We've
if
been
you're
at
gonna
this show for
judge-
5 hours. We've been at the show for 5 hours.
if you're
I've
gonna
had 3
judge-
beers. Do you think I'm drunk?
I don't know, but if you're gonna judge, then you have to get judgment back. So
And
I'm just
that's
saying.
fine.
And a
You
good
can judge me
Christian
back.
actually
so you
doesn't
have
judge.
judged. Hang on. So you have judged that Christians are not allowed to drink alcohol.
No,
Is that correct?
that's not what I'm saying
Well,
at all.
then
I'm just
why
saying
did you bring that
can't
up as a
say that you're
criticism of
you
me?
can't say that you're so righteous if you're sinning as
Why
well.
not?
And sins are the same in the
Well, tell
Bible.
me why I
Hold on.
can't drink. Tell me why I can't drink.
One
It
sec.
does
Why-
not matter
why?
if you are
Tell me
offended.
why.
The truth is what matters. She was calling herself a pastor, which is not possible, and a lie. A lie is a sin. Teaching from a place of lies furthers the sin.
Tell me where. Tell me why I'm not allowed to drink beer while I'm doing a podcast. Tell me why that's sinful. Tell me why that's wrong. Go ahead.
You can do whatever you want, and I'm not judging you.
No,
Nobody's
no,
perfect.
that's not what I
but
asked
I think
you. I
what
said
here
she's
is
trying to
sinful.
say,
Sinful.
if you're ruining your temple, which is God's body for you,
So
right?
do I ruin my
that is a
temple when I
sin.
eat a donut?
Just like a prostitute is ruining her body. It's the same thing.
Oh,
A
yeah.
sin is a
Oh,
sin.
it's
It
the
says
same
in the
thing.
Old
So I'm
Testament,
ruining my-
right? They are equal
Am I allowed?
sins.
Am I allowed to eat a
Lying,
donut?
stealing.
Am I allowed to eat a donut?
Technically, no. It's bad for your body.
No, I'm not allowed to eat
I
a
mean,
donut.
if
Am I
we're-
allowed to breathe oxygen?
I mean,
Because
you
that
have
decays
to.
my body over time.
But if you're talking about putting like high fructose corn syrup and all those bad things in your body, it is
I'm not
technically
allowed
a
to
sin
have a
because
Coke?
it is your temple.
So
I'm
I'm not
not
allowed to
saying
have
we're
Coke.
perfect, but I'm just calling you out.
Wait,
as
wait,
I
wait,
mean,
hang
to
on,
go
hang on.
off what
I
she's
want to make
saying.
sure. Hang on, stop. Now you know. Now, if you want to know why it is I'm so hard on these women, now you know. Because this woman next to you just told me that it's sinful to drink. She couldn't back it up. Right? She did make
It is
an
sinful to
actual.
drink.
Hang on, stop. My turn now. She did make an actual biblical appeal, but she didn't know where it was. She just heard it in passing. On top of that, she said, "I can't drink a Coke. I can't eat a donut. Right? I can't do anything." Apparently, Christians aren't allowed to do anything because if we eat a donut,
not what I
that's
said.
like sucking 100 dicks like a prostitute, right?
That is
Isn't that
not
like
what I
that?
said.
Isn't
That's
it like
not
that?
what I said.
Literally, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, isn't that an entailment? I'm sorry, isn't that an entailment? Isn't sucking 100 penises like me eating a donut? Go ahead.
Well,
tell
I
me.
think what she's
No.
trying to
Isn't
say,
it?
which she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what she's trying to say is that everybody has all these like sins, whether they're hidden or not. Okay,
Like
I'm not
drinking a
saying
Coke?
I'm not saying what you're doing is a sin. I don't know you. You know, I don't know what in the context of it. I'm just saying.
You can't tell me what I'm doing is a sin or not? You don't have judgment?
No,
You don't have discernment? You can't discern what's a sin?
no, not
Then
in
why
your
should I
life.
take your word for anything when it comes to Christianity? You can't even discern what's a sin.
It's between you and God, Andrew. I'm not gonna
No.
I'm not gonna look into your life. Yeah, you can have whatever criticisms you have about me. You know, that's fine. All I'm saying is that
Have I made any personal criticisms about you? Seems like all the criticisms
No,
have to come
what you
from
just-
you guys to me.
what you just said was that you can't trust what I say about God, and that's fine because, like I said, I didn't.
That's not a personal criticism. That's an entailment of your logic.
And that's-
if you say I cannot make any judgment on another person's sin,
Mm-hmm.
then you have told me that you cannot discern what is sin.
Well,
You are incapable of telling me what is sinful. So why would I ever listen
for
to you?
another person, for myself, I think I can tell for myself, but I don't know, I don't know your whole grand scheme of things. I think for some people, drinking could be a sin. For some people, it could not. I'm just saying, I'm not here. I don't think that I could adequately point at your sins, and I stand by that.
But this is a bit of a whataboutism about his drinking. I do want to quickly bring it back to your point about, so you're a Christian, correct?
I am.
And so do you think that, do you think women can be pastors? What's your denomination, by the way? Are you Protestant?
Well, I did not.
Non-denominational,
No,
they all are.
no, I did not grow up in church. I grew up a different religion.
What's your denomination?
I do not have a denomination.
Yeah, right. You're
I love
non-denominational.
Jesus,
All of you are always non-denominational.
which is
Okay,
fine.
but so
yeah,
can women be
uh-huh.
pastors?
I don't know.
But I'm asking because you objected
Biblically-
to his position, and biblically it would seem to indicate that women can't be pastors from a Christian worldview.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200. None of the things you have pointed out, ladies, are sins. The crone you are referencing committed fetus deletus, which is an actual sin. Why do you support such a person? You ladies need to study.
You're
So-
wondering why these entanglements happen. These entanglements happen because people try to tell me what's what when it comes to this. That's fine, you can, but then you should expect an argument. And you should expect me to argue in favor of my worldview, which arguably I can make an argument right now. Even if I knew nothing else, I could tell you that if somebody's saying that me drinking a Coca-Cola or having a beer is similar to prostitution, they're insane. That's ludicrous on its
Well,
face.
I don't think that
to say.
anybody here said that. And I also,
Okay, well then why can't I eat a donut?
I don't think that anybody here ever said that. I think that we
He
just
said I can't eat a donut.
No,
I'm
she's-
going to tell you
and-
what she said. She said I can't eat a donut because it's polluting the temple, just
there
like
was a
prostitutes are
pastor
polluting
who
the
said
temple.
if you
That's what she
drink
said.
if you drink water when you're supposed to be worshiping the Lord, then drinking water could be a sin. And I just want to ask you, Andrew,
Yeah, that's true. It could be.
seriously, I have a serious question for you. Like, I know that you have problems with everyone's going to have a lack of education in the beginning when they find Jesus, but do you not want people to find Jesus?
Then why are they calling themselves pastors?
I'm
and
not calling
going
myself
out
a
and
pastor. I'm
starting
saying I don't
ministries
know.
if they don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
So
Why would you do that?
You think that if Jesus saw someone who said, I love God and I want to turn away from sin, he would be like, you don't know enough?
You mean Pharisees? Yeah, he did it all the time.
No, he did not tell the Pharisees they didn't know enough. He told them that what
Yeah,
they were
he told
doing
them
was
all
corrupt.
the time. He told, listen, I'm telling you right now that there's plenty of people who have false ministries who are running around saying they do. There's been women on this panel who I've tangled with.
But you're
who
not
have said that
answering
they
my
have-
question. My question
I'm answering
is-
it directly.
No, you're not.
They have, yes, I am. They've said directly to me that they have visions from God and that they're prophets of God. I've heard that they've said it to me.
So,
Like,
but
what do you
that's
want me to
still
say to these
my
people except
question
you're
is,
delusional?
what do you want? What do you want? Like, do you want women to be degenerate, or do you want them to turn their ways? What do you want?
Well, I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to tell you, you can do both. It's not a bifurcation. It's not I'm going to use Christianity as a shield while I preach a false gospel. That's a bifurcation. You can do both.
Jeremy
you can both
donated
not be a prostitute
$200.
and be a real Christian.
Have
you
you
can do
looked
both
in the
those
mirror,
things.
blonde tubby? Girl 1, pull your jacket up. G2, less makeup. The Bible is ambivalent towards alcohol, considering it both a blessing and potential danger from God.
I do need
Preach,
to.
Andy.
Yeah, hey, Jeremy, thank you.
Yeah,
I
hang
do-
on. Let me finish this up though. if
Okay,
you don't mind.
quick
Real
point though.
Brian,
Quick
I'm
point.
almost done.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to this. You can do both. But don't tell me that just because you turned away from degeneracy 15 years ago and now you have a ministry as a female, that I'm not allowed to tangle with you theologically because I never was a prostitute. I don't get to say I was never a prostitute, so now I'm above criticism. But you're telling me that because they have stopped being prostitutes, now they're above me criticizing their theology. That's absurd.
I don't think they're above you criticizing their theology. I just think that the way that you approach them from an outside standpoint, someone watching the podcast, it comes off hateful. It comes off hateful. That's just
I'm
what
sorry
I'm saying.
about your emotional state. You'd have to talk to the thousands of people who it doesn't come off hateful to, but rather would prefer to see these people confronted because nobody's ever confronted them. And they get to just basically run around, do whatever the hell they want. There's never any ideological pushback at all. So what you're saying, but I just want you to let you know that this is what I hear. What I hear is, but they're not prostitutes anymore. So isn't that good enough? Yet, interestingly enough, where's my extra credit for never having been a prostitute? I don't get any, and yet my theology can still be criticized. Isn't that interesting? But theirs can't be because they stopped sucking dick a few years ago. It's ridiculous.
I think that you
Hold
have
on,
fair game to criticize them. I think that that's totally fine. I've never been a prostitute either. All I'm saying is that I think for the health and well-being of the world, it would be great to be more welcoming to those people. That's all I'm saying. If you want to turn away, I think it's a great thing. Turn away. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a great first step. But that doesn't
that's all I'm
mean that
saying.
now all criticism gets to fly by night. Doesn't mean that you get to pull a Nala and do I'm done with the OnlyFans. Well, that's fantastic. But when people say, okay, but where's the compensation to the thousands that you've wronged? How are you going to make amends for these horrific things that you did, which even a court would have an expectation that you paid compensation for people you victimized. And yet somehow they can use this as a shield from criticism. Whereas those who've never engaged in such horrific activity get no additional credit for never having engaged in it. It's ridiculous.
Got to move
That
things.
is ridiculous.
Got to move things on. We have G.R. Gracie. Ladies of a certain segment of society predictably make logical decisions primarily based on emotions. Is the world better off if that segment of society chooses its leaders/laws? Is the world better off if that segment of society chooses? Wait. Certain segment of society predictably make illogical decisions based on emotions. Is the world better off if that segment of society chooses its leaders and laws?
Just busy sinning over here.
He's got a cookie? What
My wife made these delicious cookies for me. It's,
Get a donut, Andrew. You need a donut.
well, it's horrifically. I'm going to wash it down with a beer, too. I mean, how
Shit.
dare I
You
eat
sinner.
a cookie and drink a beer and criticize a prostitute?
Can
That
I
was-
say
what-
something
like,
on that?
I mean, I really need to pull the plank out of my own eye here.
You degenerate. Go ahead.
Okay, all I'm saying is I don't know who they is. The devil is trying to keep you enslaved, right? So the more things that you're doing in your life that are going to keep you in a low vibrational, whether it's eating sugar, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, those types of things are going to keep you in a low vibration, and you're not going to be able to get closer to God when you're in
Okay,
that state.
I gotta
That's
move
why
on.
What
Mormons
vibration-
I gotta move
don't
on.
allow you to have
Vibration should we be
caffeine,
at?
right?
Should we be at 96.8 hertz for our
And
vibration?
I'm not trying to
What?
sound like a new age hippie at all. I'm just
Well, you
saying
sure
that
sound like one. What's
alcohol
this vibration?
definitely brings you down to the third dimension, right?
The third dimension. How many
Right.
dimensions are there?
I don't know.
Erroneous.
Haven't been there.
Erroneous.
Yeah,
All right.
but
Let me move it
alcohol
on.
My
brings
point
Let me move it
is
on.
you're
Let me
not going
move
to
it
be
on.
able
No,
to get
you're not allowed to
closer.
criticize theology, Andrew. After all, drinking beer brings you down to the third dimension, right?
You're not going to be able to get closer to God doing those things.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
all
I
I'm
know. I'll
saying.
be down
Stop.
in the third dimension.